What we're going to be looking at today is flashing some very interesting buy signals for Bitcoin that we haven't seen in over 4 years. I have about 4 different charts prepared for you guys today that is going to be painting a pretty bullish and pretty optimistic picture for the next 6 to 12 months for Bitcoin. And considering the news of today regarding Donald Trump, combined with the fact that everybody's so bearish in Bitcoin, with it being, still under $60,000, I thought today would be a great day to have a little bit more of a bullish, optimistic update on Bitcoin. So the chart that was on the thumbnail of today's video is looking at Bitcoin. That is in the orange line on this chart. And then in the white, this is the chart of the big 4 central banks and the amount of liquidity that they hold on their balance sheets. So this is obviously the central banks like the Fed, the ECB from Europe, the Bank of Japan, and this might even be the BOE. Is the BOE the 4th largest central bank? I'm not even 100% sure on that one, but we can see very clearly that Bitcoin is correlated to these liquidity cycles, okay? A lot of people say that Bitcoin goes up every 4 years solely because of the Bitcoin halving. Other people say the halving doesn't matter, and what actually matters is the 4-year liquidity cycle that we see actually spring up around the elections, okay? I'm impartial to both of those debates, and I probably land somewhere in the middle. I think they both matter. I think they're both important, and I think they both drive Bitcoin higher every 4 years. But we can see here, the liquidity is starting to trend upwards for the first time in 3 years. Okay, you guys can see whenever liquidity bottoms, which is signified by those cute little green arcs underneath the bottoms of those white lines, we can see that typically marks the bottom for Bitcoin. And what's interesting about this cycle is that Bitcoin right now is at $60,000, just below its previous all-time high, okay? And the liquidity cycle hasn't even started expanding yet. It's only just started to rise a little bit over the past year, but we haven't even gotten into the big parts of this liquidity cycle really expanding and increasing. Now, speaking of the liquidity cycle, I have an absolutely fascinating chart from TXMC, which really does help to explain why Bitcoin has rallied so aggressively from $15,000 to $70,000 over the past 18 months. And this chart here, I believe, explains it better than most. This is actually showing us that what we have seen is the fastest easing of financial conditions globally in the past 12 months than we've ever seen. Sorry, since 1983. And a lot of people obviously point to this and they say this is why we are seeing such a rapid increase in the price of Bitcoin over the past 18 months. So we can see here, this is because of multiple things. One of the reasons for why we have seen the most rapid easing in financial conditions is obviously Janet Yellen tinkering with how she issues debt, and Jerome Powell kind of getting a little bit more dovish in his press conferences. They are all contributing to why we're seeing such interesting financial easing conditions. But while we're speaking about financial easing conditions and money supply and liquidity, I thought I absolutely had to show you guys this chart right here. So this is showing you Bitcoin denominated in the M1 money supply. Now, what's interesting is we actually haven't gotten ahead or above our March 2017 high when you denominate Bitcoin in the M1 money supply until now. Just recently, you guys can see we've popped our heads above that 2017 all-time high for the first time in a long time. And you guys know Bitcoin is the only asset that has actually outperformed the debasement of the M1 money supply and the central bank balance sheet. Any other asset class that you pin Bitcoin up against, they have not performed better than Bitcoin in history or over the past 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, whatever time frame you want to look at, Bitcoin is superior. Sure, you can get lucky picking some penny stocks or some individual stocks like Tesla or Nvidia who have outperformed Bitcoin for short periods of time. But again, they are not an asset class. They are just very individual stocks. Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is its own asset class. It is a commodity. And simply buying this commodity has proved pretty well over the past few years. How well has it proved? Well, I have a really interesting video I would love to try to play for you guys today. I am having a little bit of issues with my audio, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat, and I would love for you guys to let me know whether you guys have audio for this video here I'm about to play for you guys. If it doesn't work, I'm going to break it down for you anyway. Okay, so we have no audio again. I apologize about that, but I'm sure from Mr. Payne's animated reaction there in the video, you guys can probably tell that he was talking about the fact that Bitcoin has been the best performing asset for 10 of the past 13 years. And he actually says, in a very animated fashion, that Bitcoin is up 314,000% on the time frame that he was actually measuring in this video. This only goes back to 2013. This actually cuts out many of Bitcoin's best performing years from 2009 to 2013, okay? Bitcoin still put up some incredible returns, okay? So everybody is talking about Bitcoin's incredible returns. Everybody is talking about how Bitcoin is the future and how it's doing some pretty incredible things. Now, I do want to show you guys, I have a ton more charts I want to show you guys. And I also want to show you guys some updates on Mr. 100 and some other whales that have been doing some very, very, very interesting things this week. But before we do that, I did want to tell you guys about something that I think is going to be the future of Bitcoin. And that, of course, has to do with our flagship sponsor, Rhino Bitcoin. Okay, so if you guys did not know, Rhino Bitcoin is one of the up and coming Bitcoin applications in the space. It's a Bitcoin banking solution that combines traditional financial services with the power of Bitcoin. So it's created by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Rhino offers you guys a range of different services. You can buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, withdraw to cold storage, and even pay other people using the Lightning Network. Now, what I love the most about Rhino is you can purchase gift cards with sats at the click of the button. So obviously these gift cards can be super useful if you're traveling around the world. You can get a US dollar denominated gift card, which is really cool. And you can even connect your own multi-signature setup, like using something like Casa, to Rhino. Okay, so again, Rhino is super cool. If you guys want to check out Rhino, you visit rhinobitcoin.com to download Rhino today, and you guys can experience the future of what we believe is going to be Bitcoin banking. So big shout out to Rhino. Now let's talk a little bit more about what's going on. So I just mentioned Mr. 100, and we can see that during the dip and during the crash, Mr. 100 has accumulated an additional 700 Bitcoin over the past 48 hours, okay? Mr. 100 is significantly increasing his buys, and it really, really, really looks like, somebody is taking advantage of Germany paper handing their Bitcoin, okay, which is very interesting. Germany just sold, think about this for a minute, guys. Germany just sold 50,000 Bitcoin in the past week. What's the price of Bitcoin done? It's honestly hardly budged. It's actually moving up now today, which is very interesting. A lot of people thought that, Germany selling that much Bitcoin would have been the end for Bitcoin. And when we have a look at some other metrics, we can see pretty clearly people are very bearish right now on Bitcoin. This is the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. And what if I told you it is actually at the same level? So we're seeing the same amount of fear today at $60,000 that we saw when Bitcoin was at $16,000 in 2023. Well, that's exactly what we're seeing. Check this out. We can see that we have never been this low on the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index since, is that January 2023, when Bitcoin was at that $15,000 to $16,000 range. Okay, so this is absolutely massive. And it shows, just how many weak hands have been shaken out in a very small 20% pullback. So we show these charts a lot here on the channel because a lot of people might be new to Bitcoin, but we can see it's very common for Bitcoin in bull markets to actually experience these 10, 20% pullbacks. It happens a lot. It happens a lot of times, and there's absolutely nothing to be worried about. Something that might, maybe we should worry about is this announcement here. I saw this was really interesting. So get this, options trading is now available for 2x leveraged and inverse Bitcoin ETFs, but not spot Bitcoin ETFs. So this is a new announcement. This is a pretty interesting one that I saw during this week. And again, very interesting. A lot of people are talking about paper Bitcoin right now and how it's a bad thing, how it's a negative thing. And it just looks as if we're seeing more developments in that space. That is obviously not what we want to see. We much prefer to see more focus on the spot Bitcoin markets. While we are talking about futures and inverse Bitcoin spot ETFs and all of the shenanigans in the derivatives market, I did want to show you guys this chart here that I also saw. Right now, there is $18.4 billion worth of shorts that will be liquidated if Bitcoin pops its head up to $72,000, okay? Now, again, that's not far away. That's just at the Bitcoin all-time high. But let me tell you, 18,000 Bitcoin worth of shorts, 18 billion worth of shorts, which is absolutely incredible, are all potentially going to be liquidated or going to have to be moved if Bitcoin gets up to that $72,000 level, which is honestly not that far away from where it is right now. We're at 60,000. We're only, a 12, maybe a 20% rally away from liquidating all of those shorts, okay, which is, it's not a massive rally, okay? And things can happen really, really quickly, okay? Things can happen super quickly in the space, okay? Speaking of things happening quickly, we're trying not to mention it today, but obviously Trump was just involved in what looks to be a very, very controversial situation at a rally, which is obviously crazy, very sad. It looks like Trump is okay at the time of speaking, but it just shows how quickly things can happen in the Bitcoin space. 2 days ago, he announced he was going to be speaking at the Bitcoin conference, and then we have a really crazy case, which is still developing right now, which is why I'm trying to not comment on it. But it looks as if we've seen someone try to attack Trump at a rally, okay? So things can happen really quickly in the Bitcoin space. If you want to be kept up to date with everything happening, we got a free newsletter, the Bitcoin News weekly newsletter. It is linked in the description of today's video. Every week we show you guys the stories that matter and we deliver them straight to your inbox so that you stay on top of what is actually happening in the Bitcoin space. Now, speaking about videos, speaking about updates, speaking about everything happening in the space, if you guys missed it, we also put out an interview yesterday. So definitely a different kind of interview. We actually talked a lot about the risks of Bitcoin, the risks of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, and obviously we give you some solutions as well. We didn't just talk about problems, but we talked to Bitcoin Mechanic, who is a Bitcoiner who's been in the space for a very, 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 very long time. He's far smarter than myself when it comes to everything in the technical space of Bitcoin. And he obviously works with Ocean Mining, one of the most popular and known about Bitcoin mining pools, despite them only having 0.1% of the global hash rate. Ocean has, pardon the pun, made some splashes in the space because of their stance on block template construction and obviously ordinals. So again, if you missed that interview that we did yesterday, you can see I've just brought up the thumbnail for that one. Is BlackRock's 314,000 Bitcoin holdings an attack on Bitcoin? Now that title directly references Bitcoin Mechanics and my own discussion yesterday, talking about whether we could see a 51% attack or hard fork in the Bitcoin space. And we really wanted to talk about all of the hypothetical ways the ETFs could be an attack on Bitcoin. We always bring you guys the bullish news, and we always like to get bullish, but we also like to show you guys the other side of the story. So if you missed that interview with Bitcoin Mechanic, highly recommend you check it out. And with all that said, guys, there's 1,317 of you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hope you enjoy our interview with Bitcoin Mechanic. And with all that said, we're going to end today's video here. Stay tuned, because tomorrow we're going to be dropping an interview, an in-person interview that I conducted in Bitcoin Prague. Okay, so that's actually probably going to be one of the most bullish interviews we've ever had on the channel. And yes, we've had Samson Mao on the channel, we've had Preston Pish, we've had some very bullish people, but stay tuned for what's happening tomorrow. Make sure if you subscribe to the channel, maybe YouTube will notify you when that one drops. But with all that said, guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys in a future video.